inside because he's a relic. Now they had him x-rayed, and the x-ray shows that there's bits of wire and wood and maybe layers of cloth or something in there. But it was when they had the CT scan done, that takes a three-dimensional x-ray, if you like, that we were able to digitally dissect the merman and see just how some crafty Japanese person made this a couple of hundred years ago. Started out with a couple of bits of wood which he nailed together with a single nail. He used a wire to make the undulating form for the back end of the fish, and he had a tail piece at the back to jam it right down into the back of the fish. The neck is a piece of wood with a hole through it, through which he wound a rope to make the brain of the beast, as we see in a second. Now, he doesn't appear to have owned a drill, so everything's held together with fine pegs of wood, and the wire that holds the body to the tail is held onto the pieces of wood with some sort of mixture of fabric and animal glue. It's wrapped around and binding him together. This man's using whatever he can find at hand, I suspect. Over the top of that fabric and glue mixture, he's put a layer of clay or possibly plaster, whatever he had to hand, and that goes around the rope of the head to give it a solid structure as well. His arms are made out of possibly on one side a plank of wood and on the other some rolled up paper and glue, and some bits of old bendy wire form the fingers for the hands. The most perplexing part of him at this stage is this ring of quite dense material only on one arm. And it wasn't until I asked the people at the Horniman Museum that they told me that this is actually epoxy glue because someone had broken this piece at some stage and glued it back together. He must have found when he slid all of this into the tail of the fish that it wasn't a perfect fit and that people would be able to feel that it was hollow at some point. So he's added layers of that cloth and glue mixture again to try and pad it and make it into a solid feeling object. The teeth are actually the teeth of a fish. We don't know whether they're the teeth of the fish that's at the back. It could be just another fish that he had lying around. So finally he jams the whole front unit into the back of the fish and builds up the front of the monkey part of him just with papier-mâché. So now we know what's inside the merman. How do we tell the public what we found inside? And we thought the obvious way to do that was by making a 3D print of him with bits exposed so that you can see the layers underneath the skin. So you can see the wire that runs the full length of the animal connecting the tail to that segment of wood right down here. You can also see the different layers of clay and cloth that make up the structure inside him, and you can see that the hands underneath all this papier-mâché are just bits of wire.